Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I'm Bob Lessman, your worship associate for today's service, the incarceration system and the need to engender hope. We gather together with our doubts as well as our certainties, with our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys. Whether you are joining us for the first time or you've been a member or friend for many years, we're glad that you're here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome. Our speakers today are Miranda Hope, Diana Lieber, and Ashley Secor. Miranda trained through the Prison Yoga and Warriors at Ease projects to offer trauma-informed yoga and meditation to the incarcerated and military populations. She is also a teacher, musician, mother, and wife. UUCSV member Diana Lieber is retired from the Air Force and the Department of Homeland Security. She earned a master's degree in professional counseling and has been working with incarcerated persons locally since 2016. Ashley Secor, a self-described military brat, was born in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. She has been in and out of incarceration. An addict, she is now in recovery and works at a restaurant in Woodbridge, Virginia. Our speakers today are fierce advocates of reform of the all too typical system in our prisons of punishment and isolation without meaningful rehabilitation and treatment. Nevertheless, they look to the future with hope.
Today's opening words are by UU Minister Reverend Angela Herrera. This reading is from the UU Association's book of readings called Lifting Our Voices. Prayer for Travelers. This is a prayer for all the travelers, for the ones who start out in beauty, who fall from grace, who step gingerly looking for the way back, and for those who are born into the margins, who travel from one liminal space to another, crossing boundaries in search of center. This is a prayer for the ones whose births are a passing from darkness to darkness, who all their lives are drawn toward the light and keep moving, and for those whose journeys are a winding road that begins and ends in the same place, though only when the journey is completed do they finally know where they are. For all the travelers, young and old, aching and joyful, weary and full of life, the ones who are here, the ones who are not here, the ones who are like you, and they're all like you, and the ones who are different, for in some ways we each travel alone. This is a prayer for traveling mercies and sure-footedness, for clear vision, for bread for your body and spirit, for water for your safe arrival, and for everyone you see along the way.
Now, as Nancy comes forward, let us say together from our homes the words for lighting the chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. I invite you now to join with me as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another. The words for reflection this morning are by John Behrens and Rebecca Ann Parker, adapted. Hope rises. It rises from the heart of life, here and now, beating with joy and sorrow. Hope longs. It longs for good to be affirmed, for justice and love to prevail, for suffering to be alleviated, and for life to flourish in peace. Hope remembers. It remembers the dreams of those who have gone before and reaches for connection with them across the boundary of death. Hope acts. It acts to bless, to protest, and to repair. Our three speakers this morning are Miranda Hope, Diana Lieber, and Ashley Secor. Miranda recorded her talk and sent it in. It's a beautiful one, and you'll love it. Diana and Ashley are recording here with me today, and Robert Hurt and Nancy.
Hi there. My name is Mandy, and I offer yoga and meditation classes to the incarcerated. I've offered about 250 classes to the men and women at the RSW jail, which is Rappahannock, Shenandoah, and Warren Counties Regional Jail. And I really mostly just want to thank you for showing up today with maybe a curiosity or a desire to learn or a desire to connect. Most people are not that interested in looking at this subject. It's hard to look at, and it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind in the jails. So thank you for that. And also I want to express what an honor it is to be given this time to talk a little bit about something so near and dear to my heart. So I thought I'd start off just because most of us haven't been in a jail, and I was no exception. And so in the 3 minutes before my first class, I'm standing in this indoor gymnasium. I'm waiting for my first students to arrive. I am anxious. And, you know, being an anxious yoga instructor is not the most inspiring thing in the world. So I knew I had to calm myself down, but I didn't know if I was going to be safe. I didn't know if they were going to make fun of me or if they were going to laugh at me. And I pictured myself just running out the door, and the last they'd see of me was the back of my head and me just saying, I can't do this, you know. And then the door buzzed and it opened, and my 10 students walked in, 10 women in orange and white stripes. And they looked me in the eye, and I looked them in the eye, and I could see that they were nervous and excited. And I could also see that I was safe, and that they're just people. They're just souls. We're all just souls. So I had a great sigh of relief, just a, whew, I'm safe. It's gonna be fine. Well, the next thought I had was, well, if I'm safe, really, then why have we locked these women in cages? And is there some other solution for this problem than incarceration? So I want to talk about kinship, because kinship is central to the Prison Yoga Project, who trained me and with whom I serve. And on the first day of training, James Fox, who led the training, he said, if you have come here because you want to save or help or change or fix someone, then you've come to the wrong place. The minute that we place ourselves above somebody else, and then we want to reach down and help them or save them or fix them, we actually have put ourselves in the position of not being able to be effective at all. Instead, what we need to do is kinship, just an open, curious, compassionate, heartfelt sense of being in the presence of another human being. And one of my heroes, Father Gregory Boyle, who is a Jesuit priest in Los Angeles, who has been working with gang members for the last 30 years, he writes on kinship. He says, as Mother Teresa said, the problem in the world is that we have forgotten that we belong to each other. So We hope to inch our way out to the margin so we can stand with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless, with those whose dignity has been denied, with those whose burdens are more than they can bear. Occasionally, you get really fortunate and you get to stand with the easily despised, the demonized, so the demonizing will stop, and with the disposable, so that one day will come when we stop throwing people away. We obliterate once and for all the illusion that we're separate, no us and them, just us. Kinship is the game changer. It is the pearl of great price. It is the treasure buried in the field. Let's sell everything to get it. Again, it's opposite. We get lucky. We get lucky to stand with the demonized. We get lucky to stand with people who've been thrown away, so that the demonizing and the throwing people away will stop. That is my good fortune. That is our good fortune to do that work. I want to just talk a little bit about statistics, just about what this criminal justice system looks like, the scope of it. We have 2.3 million incarcerated people in this country, people living in cages. About 10%, so 230,000 of them are veterans. 76 million Americans have criminal charges. And in our jails, 3 out of 5 people in jail are unconvicted of any crime and simply too poor to afford their bail. African Americans are jailed at 4 times the rate of white Americans, even though they make up only 13% of the population. And there are 115,000 women in jail, one of the fastest growing populations, demographics of the incarcerated. And 80% of them are mothers of young children. And with all this is very hard for me even to take. So we sit with it. And 85% of the incarcerated are in for drug or alcohol related crimes. 65% of the incarcerated meet the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, criteria for addiction. 65%. And so for me, what this means is that at great human and financial cost, we have arguably criminalized poverty, we've criminalized mental health issues, we've criminalized substance abuse issues, and we're asking young children to suffer while their parents are incarcerated merely because of poverty. Last thing, finally, 95% of everybody who's incarcerated, they're all getting out, but within 3 years, 67% will be back in jail or prison. So I'm just going to pause here for a second because I want to show you some pictures of my students. And the point of yoga, flexibility, strength, and balance, they all matter, but the real point is to feel whole, to have a sense of our real self, this thing that transcends our racing minds, transcends our diagnoses, our labels. There's a self in there that we can access that is whole, arguably perfect, eternal. And that is the point of yoga, and that is the point of bringing it to people who have been labeled and diagnosed. And it's kinship in motion. And I also like to say with these men, I thought the men would completely laugh me out of the room with a yoga class for the incarcerated. But 100% of the time, I experienced nothing but pure respect and gratitude from both the gentlemen and the women in my classes. Now, this is not to say that these men and women didn't make mistakes. They did. In fact, I never heard a story of someone saying, I didn't do it. What I heard was I did it, and I don't even know why. They did make mistakes. They do need to be removed from society. But the question for me is, where are we going to remove them to? Because ultimately, I would like to see them removed to compassionate, rehabilitative programs, mental health, addiction recovery. I would like to see the cash bail system abolished. And I would like to see us with that same sense of kinship that Father Boyle talks about, with that same joy, that we get out into our communities and we get to people when they're children, when they're teenagers. We go upstream from the problem and we provide these rails so joyfully. It will give us tremendous benefit and meaning to provide rails to at-risk youth, to all youth, so they don't end up going down this pipeline where they become criminally involved and justice involved. So next, you'll hear from Diana Lieber. She is a professional counselor and she runs an exceptional addiction recovery program at RSW. And I've had the privilege of witnessing and working within these recovery programs, and the transformation that I have seen, even just in a few months with this population, has been nothing short of transformative and sacred. Thank you again for your time. Please be well.
Hi, I'm Diana Lieber. I've been working with the incarcerated locally since 2016. Prior to that, after I retired from Department of Homeland Security, I worked with the homeless in Front Royal at the House of Hope. And that kind of brought me into a population that I saw really needed some love and some hope in the world. Have you ever asked a 5-year-old what they wanted to do when they grow up? Thinking about the answer, Thinking about the answer, we usually hear things like teacher, like nurse, police, fireman. Have you ever heard any child say, I want to be a prisoner, or I want to be a drug addict? I would like to share with you some of my experience with those that are incarcerated. My interest first sparked when my brother's tragic life came to fold. He struggled with what is now becoming well-recognized diagnosis of complex PTSD. He struggled with nightmares and significant depression throughout his life. He turned to drugs. As a result of his desperation to find some escape from the pain, he became a drug addict and the prisoner we so fear and fail to understand. The war on drugs in 1971 did two things that impacted the recidivism rate and raised the prison population. The emphasis of the United States incarceration system has been one of punishment rather than changing lives. They lose faith that they can have a meaningful life. What ends up happening is people become disheartened about their lives, and when they get out of the jail or prison, they find it harder to survive than when they went in. The punishment lives on for them far beyond the cement walls. There is so little help inside or outside. I have known so many that have nowhere to go or any place to live after they are released. They are lost and alone. Many try to walk the streets to find a homeless shelter. They know their ability to find a meaningful job will be much more difficult than when they went in. The United States has the highest documented incarceration rate in the world. Roughly 1 in every 32 adult Americans are under some sort of criminal justice system control. We are losing so many lives. The human toll is immense. It impacts not only them, but their families and the communities as a whole. I first began my experience in the jail with the dog program. 4 inmates would be hand-selected to participate at a time. The Humane Society would bring in a dog to the jail to live and learn new skills. I would go into the jail twice a week for 2 hours each time. I would bring lesson plans, show videotapes, and demonstrate the various tasks that they were assigned to teach the dog. The dog lived with the inmates. The programs were 8 weeks each, and there would be an evaluation at the end of the 8 weeks. The reason I talk about this is that each inmate dedicated themselves to the task and gained pride in their participation. Near the end of one 8-week session, one of the inmates said, "When they put me in here, I was defined as a bad person. What I learned is that I did something that was bad, but I'm not a bad person. I can still do something that means something, and I can contribute to the community." She said that, but I fear that when she was released, she would go nowhere. She would struggle to gain even a little bit of the pride that she'd had when she gained the program. I soon found out that most of the inmates believe that they are throwaways, that nobody wants around except other throwaways. That experience taught me that people need a sense of hope. They begin to give up on themselves when they are treated like they are trash. They embrace a view of themselves as bad people. I talked to a mother the other day as part of a follow-up to our drug rehabilitation program in the jail. I was trying to reach her daughter to get feedback on what she found within our program. The mother started to cry. She told me that her daughter had died of a drug overdose. She shared that she was so angry with the local jail and where they lived. Her daughter had been in the jail I'd been working with, but had been transferred to the local jail where her charges were being pursued. She said that her daughter had never gotten any help except the jail where I worked. She said her daughter had started to get better, had started to have a sense of hope, but then fell back in the local jail where there were no programs or any help for people like her daughter. This is a typical story in most jails and prisons. The other day I got an email from a grandmother pleading for help for her grandson. She said her grandson has never been offered any help. We often forget that people that are locked up in cages are sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers, and so on. They have families that scream for help. We owe it to them to help heal some of the wounds. One time a couple of years ago, I was talking about our incarceration system with one of the prison guards. I commented on the progressive and successful techniques that were employed in Germany. Germany mentors their prisoners and helps them find new ways of living where they can live while they're living in a comfortable environment. The guard told me his warden had gone to Germany to see their system, but he told me that it would never work in the United States. And I asked him why it wouldn't work. And he said that our prisoners are too violent. That statement told me that we have created an environment that villainizes and creates angry people. What is the answer? We need to focus on changing the current system and promote the first 2 principles of the Unitarian Universalists. We need to provide hope to those who have been robbed of a sense of self-worth. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second principle, justice, equality, and compassion in all human relations. Now I'd like to invite Ashley to come up and speak.
Hi, my name is Ashley Secor, and I've come to touch on a little bit of everything. I have been incarcerated, I have been an addict, and now I'm in recovery. So I'd like to just shed some light on all of that. I've been locked up in and out of jails 12 to 13 times. Not once was I ever offered any type of hope for recovery, any type of rehabilitation, anything. So I just kept going in and out, in and out, in and out, still on my addiction. I've stole, I've robbed, I've done everything you could possibly think of, which it's hard to even admit that some addicts do things that they would never do in their regular state. So I have been an addict for a little over 10 years. It just started kind of, experimenting. But then I got addicted to pain pills. And that soonly became not enough. So I ended up on heroin and was addicted to that for 7 years. Like I said, I have been in and out, in and out. I've got embezzlement charges, I've got possession charges, and all of these are felonies. So now, I am in recovery, and it's so hard to even find a job because of all my felonies. And every single time that I got a charge or got thrown in jail was a direct result from my addiction. I went in December, almost 2 years ago now, was my last time that I got locked up. And I was in for 10 months. And me realizing that I wasn't getting out that last time, and my lawyer telling me that it's a mandatory minimum of 5 years that I was going to be in jail, I lost it. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I'm crying, saying like, I need help. I don't need to be thrown in jail for 5 years. I need help. And I guess I was essentially maybe one of the lucky ones, because when I did get incarcerated again at RSW, they had a recovery pod. I don't like calling it the drug pod. The recovery pod just sounds, more that you have hope, and I actually ended up getting moved over to the recovery pod. Actually twice. The first time I went into the recovery pod, it was so much. And I was like, oh, I'm not ready to deal with any of this stuff. Because I self-medicated for a long time. Trauma, that was in my past. I have complex PTSD. There were things that I was finding out now that, I had, and that, they could be treated. The first time though, it was too much for me. I was like, I can't do this. So I went back, over to the other pod. And then one last time I got to go back to the recovery pod, and that's where I was like, there's hope. Because I, in my addiction, thought that I was going to die from this drug. I lived by this drug, and I was going to die by this drug. And when I found out that I didn't have to, and that I could live an actual good, healthy life, I wanted it. I wanted it with everything in me. A lot of people say, oh, well, why didn't you just stop? You didn't love your kids enough, or just get off of it. It was your choice to become an addict. And it was my choice to do it for the first time, but in an instant like that, I was addicted. I had to have that drug. I would get disgustingly sick from it. And being out, and that, if you just go right down the street or this or that, you won't be throwing up anymore. You won't have diarrhea. You won't be going through all that stuff that you go through. So it's hard for addicts, because if they know they can just go right down the road, they don't have to feel like that anymore. They're doing it. So then back again, you're on it, So when I did get to that recovery pod, and I saw hope so much. Miss D was our facilitator that came in, and she was just like this burst of sun. Like, she told you it's gonna be okay. You can do this. One of my biggest pet peeves is that, you know, people say, oh, well, you chose to become a heroin addict. And to touch on what Miss D had said, I didn't raise my hand in first grade saying, I want to be a heroin addict. That's what I strive to be. That wasn't it at all. So when I did get over there and got to see, you know, everything and show that there is hope for you, I went full force. I became, you know, the leader of that pod. I was facilitating the NA meetings and all of that stuff. So it was good. Like, when I had first went in this last time and realized I wasn't getting out, it was crazy. Like, I found out that I want to make me cry. I found out, I'm sorry, that my dad had cancer while I was in there. And my dad is everything to me. No matter what I had done, he was always there. So when I found out he was sick when I was in there, I was so angry at myself. Like, how dare you be locked up right now because you're a heroin addict and you're not there for your dad, you're not there for your family. I was so angry, and I was angry at God for a long time because I just didn't understand why. I know what a man is because of my dad. He is the epitome of a man. He was and worked his ass off, 29 years in the Marine Corps. He works for Veterans Affairs still now, and I just didn't understand why this amazing human now has cancer. It took me a bit, but I understand that's life. But it also scares me, like, what would I have done if I was out? I might have been there for him, but mentally, I wouldn't have been there for him because I'd be getting high as soon as I found out that my dad was sick. So I was grateful as well that I was in jail because I learned how to deal with it without getting high. And realized, you know, things happen, but me being sober is one of the best gifts I can give my dad. When God forbid he does go and God takes him home, he will know that I'm okay. He doesn't have to take inventory of his house anymore when I'm there. He doesn't have to be worried about if his TV is gonna be gone or if, you know, something else is gonna be gone. He doesn't have to do that anymore. So I'm grateful that I was incarcerated when I was. I needed it. A lot of people are like, oh, well, were you upset that you, like, you know, were in jail? Like, yeah, I was upset, but in the end, it helped me. Only because we had that recovery pod and that gave you a sense of hope. I wrote a letter to McShin, which was the rehab that came into that pod. They facilitated that pod as well. So I wrote a letter and I got a full scholarship to go to McShin. And I was like, yes, like, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be it. Because a lot of people, it doesn't matter what you say to them, what happens, what goes on, it doesn't matter. If they're not ready to quit, it's not gonna matter what you say. And so I was ready. I was so ready because when I was first getting locked up in and out, it was just, I wanted to get out so I could go get high. And then the next thing would happen, I get pulled over, I steal, or I do something like that, and boom, I'm back in jail. But never once was I offered any type of help. So when I did get that scholarship, it was amazing. I was so excited. So I did get let out, I got time served, and I got to go to McShin. It was a 30-day scholarship. So that was amazing. I was so excited. I got my 1 year clean. A lot of people say that, oh, well, your incarceration time should not count for your recovery. That's crap, because if people don't think that drugs come in and out of jails, they are insane, because it comes in and out so many times, it's crazy. So if I wanted to get high, I could have got high. So I don't like when people say that, because like I said, it comes in and out all the time. But I got to go there, I got out, and I was 15 months clean. And I go home, and a lot of my clothes and stuff had been put in bags into my trunk. So I go and I open my trunk, and I lift up a bag of clothes, and there it was. There was heroin right there. And so, of course, then my addiction starts playing, and like, oh, it's okay. You can do a little bit. Won't nobody know. You'll have a nice weekend, hang out. No, that wasn't the case. I did it and literally woke up in ICU 3 days later. Had no clue who I was, who the president was, where I was at, nothing. It literally took me about 30 to 45 minutes to finally realize, oh, shit, this is not, my nice weekend did not plan out like it was supposed to plan out. So I did have to restart, but that's okay, that's okay. I want people to know, like, even if you do slip, you can pick yourself back up. You do not have to die from this drug. So when I found out that, after I relapsed and I got out of the hospital, I went back to make shit. I called and I said, please, I don't care if I have to sleep on a floor, what I have to do, please. 20 minutes later, I got a phone call and she was like, pack your stuff, let's go. I was like, oh, thank you. So I went back for another 30 days. I will now have 10 months clean on the 27th of this month. So I'm almost back. And it's once you get into recovery and everything and you realize how great your life can be and that it doesn't have to be you stealing, you doing stuff with your body, anything. You don't have to do that anymore. You can, recovery is a wonderful thing. So I want to shed light on that. Like, a lot of people now, and now I know there's not even a recovery pod in the jail anymore. So these women have no hope. I think it was 75% of women that are incarcerated are addicts who don't get help. So I just want to, like I said, shed light on that. Like, we have to get some type of help for these women, for these men. They need to see that there is hope and that they do not have to die because you're an addict. You don't have to steal. You can actually live a good, healthy life, do a job, work your job, have your babies. I just want to, like I said, shed light on that stuff. We need more help for the addict. We really do. It'll make me cry. I just hate to know that there are so many women basically screaming for help and they can't get it. So I would like to try with everything in me to be able to do something so these women, so these men know that they can have recovery. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm gonna talk everybody's ear off. Thank you for listening, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
The musical meditation today is This Is Not My Home, a song written and sung by the Lady Lifers, an inspiring group of 10 singers serving life terms in a Pennsylvania penitentiary.
Life in Pennsylvania means just that. Life without the possibility of parole. For us lifers, as we call ourselves, our only chance for release is through commutation, which has only been granted to 2 women since 1989, close to 30 years ago. Our song, This Is Not Our Home, it tells of our experiences while doing life without the possibility of parole.
I'm a woman. I'm a grandmother, I'm a daughter, I have a son. I'm not an angel, I'm not the devil. I came to jail when I was so young. cry, I'd give in to fear. I must be strong, have to hold on, gotta get through another year. I am a prisoner for the wrong I've done. I'm doing time here. This is not my own dream of freedom, hope for mercy. Will I see my family or die alone? I'm not saying that I'm not guilty. I'm not saying that I shouldn't pay. All I'm asking is for forgiveness. Gotta have hope I'd be free someday. Oh, is there a place for me in the world out there? Will they ever know I care? Change. Is there redemption for the sin of my younger days? 'Cause I've changed. Lord knows I've changed. I am a prisoner for the wrong. I'm doing time here. This is not my home. My freedom, hope for mercy. Will I see my family or die alone? Will I see? Will I see my family or die alone? I'm known to you as inmate 008106, incarcerated 29 years. My name is Brenda Watkins. I was born and raised in Huffman, North Carolina. This is not my home.
Inmate number OB2472. I've been incarcerated for 27 years. My name is Thumma Nichols. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, PA. This is not my home.
OO8494. I've been incarcerated for 27 years. My name is Danielle Hadley. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, PA, and this is not my home.
Inmate 008309. I've been incarcerated for 27 years. My name is Teresa Battles. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and this is not my home.
I am known as inmate 007080. I've been incarcerated for 30 years. My name is Deborah Brown. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is not my home.
005961. I've been incarcerated for 37 years. My name is Joanne Butler, and I was born and raised in Philadelphia. This is not my home.
Number 005634. I've been incarcerated for 39.5 years. My name is Diane Hamill Metzger. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is not my home.
I am 004867, incarcerated 40 years. My name is Lieber Brown, and I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this is not my home.
My number is 005545. My name is Trina Garnett. I've been incarcerated for 37 years, since I was 14 years old. Born and raised in Chester, Pennsylvania, and this is not my home. Will I see my family or die alone? Or die alone?
As Nancy extinguishes the flame, let us say together from our homes the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and action. We hope you will consider making an offering through our website, uushenandoah.org, after today's service. These funds help us to exercise that generosity of spirit for this self-supporting church and its many ministries, which continue while we are not able to be physically together. We also invite you to join our church community at noon today at our virtual post-service gathering for the sharing of joys and concerns, followed by our coffee hour conversations in smaller breakout groups. The Zoom link is found in your UUCSV email. Thank you for joining us today. Go in peace.